Rundown, episode 59 of the podcast. I am with you today. It is John Easthope, of course, the host of the Red Mile Rundown. And, well, today we're going to do things a little bit different. I am going solo. Robert and I were talking about how we could do a bit more with the Red Mile Rundown. And a couple of times over the course of a week, hopefully, we will sit down, just me and you. No Robert. I have full autonomy to do what I want on these shows. And this is going to be a ton of fun as we sit down to chat all things Calgary Flames and allow me to have an opportunity to have more thoughts throughout the week and bring to you guys things that have crossed my mind that I see on social media. Robert and I talk about a lot through our text messages. So we're bringing a lot of that kind of stuff to the show that we're going to be doing here when I ride solo here. So very excited to be doing these and back. So it's been a while. For those of you who have been long-term listeners of myself, you might remember the Double Digit Hockey podcast that I used to do. So it's been a while since I've done a solo show. About 2 years now since I've done that show. So bear with me as I struggle is probably the wrong word, but as I navigate myself back through doing a show solo. I'm looking forward to this, and hopefully I can keep my energy up, speak clearly and softly as I can for you folks as we chat about this team. And, well, there's a lot going on around the Calgary Flames that we will get into. I'm sure I'll get ranty at times. And things like that. So just bear with me, and hopefully you enjoy the show. Want to thank everyone for making the Red Mile Rundown part of their podcast rotations. Robert and I are very happy with the amount of downloads and shares that we are getting. We appreciate all of you and for what you do for us. And don't forget to continue to follow us across your social media platforms. It is the Red Mile Rundown wherever you get your social media, including YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can get these as well. And, of course, I am Vintage Johnny 84 across social media. You send me your questions and comments as well on social media, and I might talk about some of them on a future episode of the Red Mile Rundown. So, as I said, going solo today for the show, so it probably is not going to reach the hour mark like Robert and I tend to do every week, but there's lots to dive into around this Flames team. I'm recording this pretty much immediately after the Flames interesting, no hard fought, no debacle of a game in Boston. It wasn't pretty. It really wasn't pretty watching this Flames team in Montreal and then Boston back-to-back nights, losing both those games 4-1. That's kind of what spurred me wanting to do these shows, and Robert encouraging me to do these shows. Is we were talking during that Montreal game and after the Seattle game where they lost 5-1 to the Kraken that we need to do more with this. We need to chat. There's lots to chat about, and so jumping on here to chat about all the things that I've noticed over the past couple of weeks here. I will give the Flames a lot of credit in that homestand they had before the Seattle Kraken game. They were really good at home, winning a few games in a row there. They looked competitive. They looked like they were engaged. They looked like they were ready to continue the run that they were on. That team was doing an incredible run, getting themselves within 2 points of a playoff spot at one point. They were back to 500. They were getting a lot of praise. And it's like they listened to the praise and thought the work was done. Because since they were praised at being 500, well, they haven't won a hockey game. They've lost 4 in a row now. The 4-3 loss to the Nashville Predators, the 5-1 loss to the Seattle Kraken, back-to-back 4-1 losses to Montreal and Boston, and it really has seen the wheels fall off of this Flames team. For those of you counting at home, in those 4 games, they only managed 5 goals. So that's not great. So we're back to that. Robert mentioned to me that this looks a lot like the team we saw in October, and I agree to that point as well. That a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the issues, a lot of what was hampering this team early in the season has all come back. And I'm trying not to throw Dustin Wolf under the bus here because he has actually been pretty good the last little while for the Flames here, despite giving up all these goals because he's getting zero help in front of him. But you still need saves. You need the defensive structure to work, and you're just not scoring goals anymore. So why? Why are we seeing all this again? I'm going to go through a few points that I've made on my phone here that allow me to see kind of like what's going on here. I'm going to talk myself through my list, and hopefully therefore entertaining you folks, and maybe you guys are seeing similar things to what I am seeing. I wrote last night that regardless of the game in Boston, the recent struggles are very concerning. Like I mentioned, it looks like the concerns of October are back, and that's very concerning because they did all of that work over the course of November and into December and right up to the new year. They did all of that work to claw and scratch their way back to being 500. They did all of that work to try to put themselves back in a spot to be successful. We know as fans that we're kind of on a different wavelength than some of these people in the front office of the Flames, but who think that this is still a playoff team. The Don Maloney comments come to mind where they still believed in this group, and that's fine. That's kind of what front offices do. That's what owners do. That's what vice presidents of hockey operations do. They believe in their group and they want to be a playoff team. So I get that. And they were well on their way to doing exactly that. Like they were 13-4-1 at home at one point and really rattling off wins. They were scoring 4 and 5 goals over the course of multiple games, and you're like, this team is clicking. They're finding ways. They come back to win games. They made Philadelphia look like an AHL team just a week and a half ago. Like it was going well for this team, and then just the wheels fell off. And as you're watching these last 4 games, it really does look like this team back in October. It looks like they're struggling to find any offense. Like the goal Connor Zary scored against the Boston Bruins, I texted Robert. I'm like, this really just felt like the older brother allowing the younger brother to score a goal so he doesn't go tell mom on him. So he feels part of the action. And I don't like saying it that way, but how else do you describe what you're watching? Because Boston was fine tonight. It's not like the Boston Bruins were this elite, immaculate team out skating the Flames. It just seemed that way because of the way the Flames were approaching this game. And the biggest concern for me, and I'll have a couple of individuals I'm going to kind of, I don't want to say single out here, but this is going to naturally happen, is the leaders of this team are the older players on this team, are also the guys that you're relying to be the drivers of this team. And when they're not driving, the Flames just don't have the younger talent or the elite talent to come in here and fill that void. So when Nazem Kadri is only getting himself 1 point in it's now 9 games. I'm going to double check that he didn't get a point tonight on that goal here. So bear with me because that's not good. That's not good from the guy who's leading your team in scoring, the guy that's supposed to be the driver of your team, of your roster, your offensive leader. He did not get a point tonight. So that's 9 games with 1 point from Nazem Kadri, who leads your team. He's one of your leaders. That ain't good enough. That ain't good enough. Once again, I have to ask, did Jonathan Huberdeau even play this game? He was invisible against the Montreal Canadiens. And it's been that way for a long time for Jonathan Huberdeau. And you see it on social media where people are just asking, what is Huberdeau? What is he bringing? $10.5 million should bring you a heck of a lot more than a guy who looks like he's a third-line player at best. And I don't want to be mean to Jonathan Huberdeau because I'm a big fan of this player. And I've talked about him on the Red Mile Rundown multiple times about how excited I was when we traded for this guy and what he could have brought to this organization. He just hasn't done it. He has not looked worse in his NHL career at any other point than he does right now. This is the worst he's looked. He's invisible. The plays are absolutely dying on his stick. He doesn't feel like he has that vision anymore. And so when you have a team struggling like the Flames are right now, and you have a guy who's supposed to be one of the offensive catalysts being invisible, obviously it adds up to loss after loss after loss. One goal a game over the last 3 isn't going to cut it. So Kadri and Huberdeau, for me lately here, have just, they're clearly not it. They're clearly not doing anything. They're clearly, something is going on here. And I think Nazem Kadri's been more engaged than Huberdeau, of course, but Kadri's not driving anything offensively. He's diving on the ice looking for calls. He's not being the guy that we saw to start this season, that you thought you were going to get. And coming off last year's 35-goal season, you thought this guy was going to press forward. I don't think that this is going to affect any trade value for Nazem Kadri. This is just struggles by a player. It just so happens that the struggles of Nazem Kadri are lining up with the struggles of the Calgary Flames. It's baffling. Like, a guy who's normally that engaged should be bringing you a lot more to the ice than he is. The one thing that I've heard a lot over the last couple of days on radio shows and other podcasts that I listen to is the Flames are struggling, but man, they're sure working hard, aren't they? Okay, great. What are they working at, though? What are they working to do here? Because hard work is only fine is if that hard work is leading you to something. And for what I'm seeing here over these last few games, reminds me a lot of October, where these pinches are leading to odd man rushes against. Board battles are leading to turnovers deep in your own zone. You're getting guys like Mackenzie Weegar, who is struggling mightily. We'll talk about him in a minute as well. So you're seeing this hard work, sure, but it's not getting you anywhere. It's not leading you anywhere. And it's just, at the end of the day, a team that's void of the high elite skill and talent, they do need to rely on the hard work and determination to be successful. But then you're hitting guys struggling so bad and so hard that nothing is paying off. And I don't want this to come off saying I don't appreciate the Flames' hard work, because when they're working hard and they're getting that's how they're going to be successful at the end of the day. It's just you have your veterans that are either snake bitten, they're not performing to the back of their cards, and the hard work is resulting in negative effects because they're turning the puck over, they're losing puck battles, they're losing puck races, odd man after odd man, and because it's the decision making while they're working. So they can work as hard as they want. But then you get decisions like Mackenzie Weegar in Montreal. That Lane Hudson goal comes to mind. Lane Hudson, he cuts in, and Mackenzie Weegar slides, falls, trips, whatever that was. But all of a sudden he's swimming on the ice while the Montreal Canadiens are skating all around him. And it's pretty much a gimme goal for the Canadiens in that game. And when you have your veterans fighting it like they are and not producing like they should be, and you don't have that elite skill around your veterans, it's a recipe for success. And so it boils down to the bigger picture. How can you watch these 4 games, even 5 games, go beyond these last 4 games, go to the last 10 games. How can you watch this and see 1 or 2 good efforts, but then you see these 4 games of just putrid hockey from the Flames? They made the Seattle Kraken look like it was the Avalanche coming through Calgary. They make the Montreal Canadiens look like Stanley Cup favorites yesterday. Boston Bruins look like a really good hockey team today. If you were Murray Edwards and Don Maloney, you're looking at Craig Conroy and kind of going, or should be looking at Craig Conroy going, yeah, let's flip the switch here and switch gears a little bit here, because this clearly isn't working. Anyone watching these games can see that this isn't it. You could re-sign Rasmus Sanderson and run this exact same team back next year. You're not getting any better results. I give a lot of credit to last year and the way the team fought and clawed all year long, the bounces they got, the bounces they didn't get, evened out at the end of the year, in my opinion. And they just were 1 point short. So I understand why they went into this year with that confidence level. Hey, we were right there. We were tied for the final playoff spot. And running it back in some instances made a little bit of sense. You could understand. I could buy that story. Then you watch October and the struggles, and you're like, ugh, they're already out of it. You watch them bounce back a little bit, and they use so much energy and strength. They use so much of their ability to try to catch up, to be just 500, still out of a playoff spot doing that, and still finding themselves in 29th, 28th spot, 30th spot in the National Hockey League. And then they go on another run like this where it's 4 losses in a row. They don't look good. They don't look connected. They don't look inspired. So how do you not draw the conclusion that it is time just to pivot a little bit? This Flames team doesn't need a full tear it down to the studs. Rhett Warner on Barn Burner, he brought up a really good point. He's like, this is different for the Flames because they have the one piece that's always hard to find, and that's a goaltender. Dustin Wolf is a good franchise goaltender. I know there are going to be those out there talking about how many goals he's given up and those basic stats, but he's the reason those games are only 4-1, right? He's in a tough spot. He's played 8 games in a row because Cooley's been out with illness and hasn't been able to play. He's playing back-to-back games. There's a lot on the shoulder of Dustin Wolf, but that's another topic for a little bit later. The Flames have a goaltender. So a rebuild doesn't have to be this tear it down to the studs. Seeing what the Flames have right now, it's as easy as pivoting, just doing the obvious thing. The trading of Rasmus Sanderson, move on from Blake Coleman. Yes, move on from Nazem Kadri. Put yourself in a position where you're drafting the next guy, the high elite talent that we've heard on this show and many other shows over and over again. Get your elite talent in here. It's 2, maybe 3 seasons of that type of hockey. Like, you can still watch a fun competitive Flames team just void of talent for a couple of years here, of finishing talent, of elite talent, until those guys come in here. This rebuild could be done in a couple of seasons. You already are well down the path. You have the goaltender. You have great supporting pieces in a Coronado and whatever Connor Zary could be. You've seen young players on the blue line of Bristevich and Kuznetsov come in here, and they've put their stamp on this team, or starting to put the stamp on this team. You have these players around to build around and to build a core with and to build a team with. Move on from those veterans who don't fit that timeline. And that's okay to admit. That is one thing that baffles me, is the Flames don't know when to admit defeat, for lack of a better way of putting it. Just admit it to yourselves. Okay, fine. And they might, now I say all this, but behind closed doors, they might have already had those conversations, and Conroy's already down that path. But then the messaging to your fans needs to come across a little bit better, because that Don Maloney interview did no favors. There's been no favors since then, and the media has to speculate. Your insiders start to speculate through their sources of things that could be going on here. So it makes nothing but sense for the Flames to see these struggles, and then also to see a team like Montreal play and how Montreal played and who's doing it for them. It's their young, elite, highly drafted players. How good was Hudson in that game? How good was Suzuki in that game? I know they traded for him. How good was Davidoff in that game? You go down the list. And then they still have their other veterans around those players. Matheson's a really good veteran defenseman back there. You got other guys. Gallagher's still around that team. The Montreal Canadian model, for me, makes a ton of sense for where the Flames are and where the Flames should be going. You have those guys to start the build. Now you draft your elite talent around them, and then you supplement that afterwards with other veterans you need. But your 36-year-olds, 37-year-olds, they don't fit where this team's path is clearly headed based on what we've watched on ice from the Flames. You watch this team play on the ice, you know where this team is headed. 30th place, 31st, maybe 29th. Hey, 28th if they get on a hot streak. Remember, they clawed back to 500 and were still 28th in the league. Just a putrid start in October, put them behind the 8 ball, and they've been chasing it, and they've used all this time and effort to chase it down. They're still sitting down there. Like they're not this team that's going to. If you used all that time and effort to get to where they were at 500, how much more do they really have to give to get them into the playoffs? So that's why I say this team on ice is showing you the path. They sit in 30th spot here. The teams behind them have games in hand. It's clear. It's really clear where the Flames need to go here. And it's not that we don't like Blake Coleman. I love Blake Coleman. It's not that we don't like Nazem Kadri. I know I kind of went at him a little bit earlier in the episode here. But these players are the players that are movable assets that are going to help you in restructuring your franchise and your team for the betterment of the franchise down the road here. So I don't get how you sit here and watch these teams that the Flames have played. And like example, Montreal is a really good example of that. And think that the Flames are just 1 or 2 pieces away. They're not. They really are not. There's no need to worry about the mushy middle with this group based on the way that they're playing either. I know that's a big worry. It was a worry of mine a couple episodes ago. I even mentioned that to Robert. Like this team has played themselves back to 500. It looks like they're destined to finish in that 20th spot. I joked about researching who the Flames could potentially draft at 11 or 12 because that's where they're bound to finish based on what we've watched. And then they come back down to earth here, and they've shown us that even the mushy middle might be a lofty goal for this team. So steer into the opportunity in front of you would be my message here. There's a lot we could say on the topic and the big picture topic, and there's a lot that has been said on the topic and the big topic of the where the Flames are, where they're going, and all that kind of thing. And we can have those conversations till we're blue in the face, and heaven knows that Robert and I have had the conversation on the Red Mile Rundown before of the bigger picture. But there's also some things that are concerning game to game here that are questioning what's going on in the Flames room here. You could talk about the Stromgren getting 8 minutes and then being scratched the next game. You could talk about, some will talk about the Parekh decisions. We'll talk about the Wolf decision to play him back-to-back, knowing Cooley's sick, why a recall wasn't used. You could talk about lineup decisions and, why is this guy playing with this guy? Like, you question a lot of the lineup decisions for the Montreal game. I'm not sure I agree with the point quite fully yet, but it's definitely out there. The questioning of Ryan Huska and what his role in this team is. And so I want to kind of talk a little bit about that because that's an interesting topic of conversation. A lot of people are questioning Ryan Huska's moves and motives and what he's doing. And the example for me is, and I know not everyone's going to agree with this point here because Ryan Klapka is getting a lot of love and deservedly so. When he's on his game, he's a tremendous hockey player. Ryan Huska puts him on the top line or the fourth line. There's no in between for him with this player. And when he's on the top line with Nazem Kadri, he doesn't play as well. When he's on the fourth line and gets elevated in game based on situations, he plays a lot better. And as an outside looker of this team who watches them every day, is a fan of this team, who kind of likes a lot of what Huska does, you kind of end up questioning some of the decisions based on things that you've seen. So I kind of question, if I'm seeing this, isn't Ryan Huska seeing this? And I know a lot of people are like, well, no. Klapka's got to play and play a lot. He's good. Yeah, when he's on. when he's on and consistent and playing well, he's a great hockey player. And if you can find that consistency, obviously more game to game, then yeah, play him up the lineup, but elevate him throughout the lineup. You've got to be able to see these things as the head coach of the hockey team. And it's not just Klapka. That was just the example I used because that's the one that I see quite recently in my brain as I'm going through this activity of trying to decipher what I'm seeing from the Flames and from Klapka. It's those kind of things that we'll see. So the discord about Ryan Huska is an interesting one because I don't think the Flames make a coaching decision, nor think they should make a coaching decision at this point. I think what needs to happen for the Flames is like I just talked about with the management group and the owner kind of switching gears. I think the message to the coach from the general manager needs to switch a little bit from, okay, I know you want to win games. That's why you're here. That's why you're a coach. Coaches love to win games, but we need to see some development of these younger players. So things like the 8 minutes for William Strongren in his debut isn't going to handle it. You need to start maybe using Brstevich on a power play. Give him more responsibilities because he's earned it. More from Kuznetsov. Calling up maybe another young forward and developing players. The messaging, I think, from the ownership, management to Huska, they might need to focus the entire shift, the entire way they're viewing things and approaching the season here on a whole, as a whole staff. But that's a deeper conversation as well. Just interesting. I wanted to bring up Ryan Huska a little bit on the show today. Couple of individual players. We want to get back into talking about players here and what we're seeing here. I mentioned Mackenzie Weegar a bit earlier. I wonder if he's hurt. Right? Because if he's not hurt, that's very concerning, the way that we've seen Mackenzie Weegar play. Interesting point brought up again on Barn Burner. I guess I listen to them a lot. Where they were wondering, is this an age thing? He just turned 32. Are we seeing the decline of Mackenzie Weegar? I'm not ready to go there yet, but it's all very concerning to watch Mackenzie Weegar turn 32. The decisions that he's making, a lot of them are questionable. And if he's not hurt, those make those decisions a little bit worse for me. And I don't want to pile on the guy because he's a guy that you're relying on. And in the dressing room, he's a leader. And he stands in front of the media every day that he's asked to, and he answers all the questions. But, you know, if Mackenzie Weegar is struggling this bad as well, that's hurting the Flames, obviously. Like he's eating minuses like Rasmus Andersson did last year. So if you trade Rasmus Andersson and you're down to just Mackenzie Weegar on the back end with some younger players, what does that look like for the Calgary Flames? That's an interesting development to watch as the Rasmus Andersson conversation continues to heat up and the trade speculation continues to heat up. Moving Rasmus Andersson, that puts a lot of pressure on Mackenzie Weegar, and amidst his struggles, it's kind of scary to think about. And when you have no answers of why he's struggling, and he doesn't have any answers of why he's struggling so bad, it just, the injury questions come up, and you're just like, is he injured? Because those are some mental mistakes he's making, and something has to be bothering him. And it's just something worth noting. I wasn't the one to bring up the injury thing. I got that from a couple of people in my conversations through social media about wondering if he, and I started thinking about it. I'm like, how else do you explain the struggles of Mackenzie Weegar? I just don't know. I could just keep going, right? Like I really could. I'm almost at a half an hour here. I could just keep going on about this is bad, that's bad. Like I have notes on the power play here, the lack of scoring I have written down here. I have a lot of things of why this isn't working. Like for an example, could definitely talk about the power play and why the power play is not working. Is it a lack of talent? Is it a lack of coaching, or what's going on there? Is it time to move some personnel around? I even question here in my notes, is it time for maybe Brstevich to quarterback a power play? Does that answer? Like So there's so many questions around this Flames team, and you guys have probably, those who have stuck around and listening to it, first, I appreciate you, but have heard me just go from point to point to point to point and question to question to question to question of what this Flames team actually is, where they're going, what they're doing, and you can question a lot about it. And it's easy to get on a podcast like this and to kind of rant like I've been doing here when the team's lost 4 in a row. But we've gone through, what are we at here? That was 45 games, 45th game tonight for the Flames. If I have my numbers right, let me double check that as I talk here. You've gone through these games here, 44 games for the Flames, 40 points. Right, so you've less points than games played. That's never a recipe for success. You're 4 games under NHL 500. You're we're gonna check the wild card here. The wild card is 6 points out of reach now. You're 5 points from the bottom. So it's easy to question this team after 4 losses, but it's really been a pattern of the whole year. And I know they had a really good middle of November to middle of December. I know at home they were really good for a good stretch there. They still have been. But you got to go big picture here when talking about the Flames, because that's what really matters here for me, is the bigger picture. This team isn't good enough. They don't have the skills. Their special teams aren't great. Penalty power play, I should say, isn't great. The PK is pretty good. The coaching is what the coaching is, and the personnel who are the personnel are, and it's just not good enough to be a team that competes for the playoffs. It just isn't. And the sooner the Flames realize what they are, and it's not just based on these 4 games, like I'll repeat that part. These 4 games definitely emphasize and show a lot of holes in the Flames game. But the sooner the team realizes what they are, the sooner they pivot to what they should be doing and what they need to be doing, I think is the more important factor of what they need to be doing. I think the quicker this will turn around and the quicker that these decisions are made. This season, for the rest of it here, for the games that are left, this should be all about developing these younger players, in my opinion. And you're not, because you're, go back, I'm going to start ranting again, guys. You're not getting what you need to from your 30-year-olds. Mackenzie Weegar just talked about his struggles, talked earlier about Nazem Kadri's struggles, the invisibility that Jonathan Huberdeau has been. He should be a superhero with how invisible he's been. If those players are not bringing to the table what they need to bring to the table to help your team be successful, because they are the leaders and they are your drivers, then it's clear this team needs to be bringing up Stromgren and playing him. When Parekh is healthy again and can be in the NHL lineup, put him in there and play him. Give more responsibilities to Prestevich. Continue playing Kuznetsov like you are. And keep going to the farm. Move out a player to bring in another player so that they can continue to develop these guys. And make sure your messaging is just that. I know you cannot tell players to lose games, and that's not what I'm saying in the least. What you can do, though, is put your team in a situation where they probably aren't going to win a ton of hockey games, but what's more important is that these players are playing minutes and playing a lot of games and getting the reps, so that when you are a competitive team, hopefully in a couple of seasons here, and fighting for a playoff spot again, these players have the experience behind them to help them deal with situations, to push them forward. And the next group of leaders needs to be born for this Flames team. You look at this and you've got your under 26 crowd and your over 31 crowd. There's not a ton in the middle there. And you're about to trade one of those guys in the middle away in Rasmus Anderson, who's 30 years old. So the Flames need to be a little bit pragmatic in their decisions here, a little bit forward thinking in some decisions here based off what they've seen this season. And forget about what last year's team did and forget about that, what they could possibly do doing that, because that was last year. Okay, we're 44 games into this season, and the Flames are nothing like that team last year. Call a spade a spade. They're just not. This is all about the bigger picture for me. This is all about finding another level for the Flames. This is all about being pragmatic in your decisions and knowing what you are as a franchise. I want this team to be successful. I want to watch good, exciting hockey for the Flames. I'll use the San Jose Sharks for an example. I've used them before. You can be a team that is void of some talent and veteran players and have a young group of players and still be a fun watch. The Sharks last year were still a fun watch, even though they weren't winning games like they are this season. Look where it's gotten them. Yes, I know they have Celebrini, who's off his rocker. Again, high-end elite drafted skill, but that's a conversation for another day, I guess, or earlier in the show, I guess. You can still do it. And so that's my plea to the Flames today on the podcast. That's the message on the podcast. There's so many notes I could rant about on this team, and I could dive into how disgusted I was at the effort yesterday in Montreal. I could talk about how uninterested Nazem Kadri looks or how invisible Jonathan Huberdeau looks. I could keep talking for another hour on that kind of stuff. It's not hard to find a player to talk about. Joel Farabee shouldn't be your best forward. All due respect to Joel Farabee. That shouldn't happen. Happened last night in Montreal. Hunter Davis shouldn't be your best defenseman. Happened again. You know, it's happened. So this team, I implore them. I'm begging them. I'm literally begging them. Just do what's right there. The opportunity is right there for you. Take it. Take it. The Flame fans are not asking you to actively go out there and be a bad hockey team. What Flame fans on a whole are asking you to do is build something that they can wrap their heads around, that's exciting, and that brings them to the rink. The Saddle Dome attendance hasn't been great this year because people just don't want to watch Jonathan Huberdeau out for a Sunday afternoon skate or Mackenzie Weegar swimming on the ice trying to track down Lane Hunt. They just don't want to do that kind. They just don't want to. They don't want to see it. I would guarantee Mr. Edwards that if he just took a couple of years to build this and open his new rink, and this Flames team has a Gavin McKenna or an Ivan Stenberg in the lineup, a Zane Parekh, maybe a Landon DuPont or a Keaton Verhoff, whoever else they drafted, a Ristevich, a Gridden, a Dustin Wolf, that building would fill up so people could watch these young, exciting hockey players play hockey. Again, see Chicago, see San Jose, see what those teams are doing. See Montreal. We just saw Montreal. Just do it, because in a couple of seasons, I don't know how many people are going to be ready to pay more expensive prices to watch an almost 40-year-old Nazem Kadri or a 40-year-old Michael Backlund or those kind of players. And there's nothing against those players. They're great humans. They're good hockey players. They just aren't fitting with what the Flames need or where the Flames are going. Again, not based on my opinion, based on what we see on the ice. Just do the right thing, man. That's all we're asking, right? It's not hard to do. Really not hard to do. It's not been pretty for a couple of games for the Flames. It's 4 losses in a row. They're back at it on Saturday. If you haven't listened to this till Saturday, maybe that game went a lot better. It's an afternoon game versus the Penguins. We'll see how they fare in that game. This road trip has gotten off to a horrendous start. Those 2 games, the one in Montreal, the one in Boston, are 2 of the worst Flames games I've watched in a long time. And it's disappointing. It's disheartening, right? Because you want to watch exciting hockey. You want to watch a team that wants to battle and win. And it's just you're just not getting it right now from the Flames from a number of different levels. So I think we'll leave it at there, guys. We're hitting 40 minutes here. thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Red Mile Rundown. Again, looking to do a few more of these over the course of the rest of the season, more often. We're still going to have our Monday recording, so our Tuesday morning episode of the podcast every week. Robert and I breaking down all things Calgary Flames, what we're seeing, and etc. Probably even have some of the same conversation I've had today on the podcast on those shows. So look for those wherever you get your podcasts every Tuesday morning, bright and early. I publish them at like 2:45 a.m. Mountain Time. So they're ready for your morning commute every single week. And keep your eye peeled and turn your notifications on to make sure you get some of these solo episodes of mine where it gives me a chance to kind of dive a little bit deeper into my thoughts on the Calgary Flames, where I think they're going, players, coaching staff, etc., etc. This has been way more fun than watching those hockey games have been. I'll tell you that right for a fact. And I appreciate the opportunity and the platform to have these podcasts. I love doing this kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Red Mile Rundown. This is episode 59 of these bad boys. Look forward to doing some more with you. Enjoy the rest of the hockey this week. We'll see you guys again it'll be a Tuesday podcast. We're back with Robert as well. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw, because the way he and I were texting back and forth the last couple of days, I'm sure he'll be fired up on Tuesday for that episode of the show. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, rest of your day, rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend, and the Flames road trip continues on Saturday. Until then, we'll see you next time here on the Red Mile Rundown.